Here we are again, Ron and Ellen Dearinger with our continuing studies, and yes, we are in the book of Psalms. And last week I did something I don't normally do, is I chose to look at two Psalms at the same time. They're kind of parallel Psalms, for those of you who didn't listen last week, and it's Psalm 52 and Psalm 53. And it comes a place and a point in time when people just need to understand that it is foolishness to deny that there is a God. And I talked about that pretty extensively, but David, God by his Spirit, through David, explains it a lot better than I can. So I'm just going to read both of these Psalms. I don't normally do that, but I'm going to set the stage. Last week I talked about people and how foolish they are in light of what I believe is overwhelming evidence for a creator, a designer, for God of the Bible. And in God's Word, lays it out pretty clearly. The heading here is for Psalm 52 is the end of the wicked and the peace of the godly. And before I move on, I almost forgot to extend God's grace and God's peace to you, and to trust that in some small way maybe God is using these videos to help you to understand that that peace is just, it's there. It's available. The peace, the hope, the trust that we can have in Him in this world that is just, man, just every day. I think, what else is going to happen? But that's another story. But in Psalm 53, there's a heading in my Bible that says, the folly of the godless and the restoration of Israel. And you can put us in place of Israel because these Psalms speak to us in our day, not just to the day that they were written. Psalm 52 verse 1, why do you boast in evil, O mighty man? The goodness of God endures continually. Your tongue devises destruction like a sharp razor working deceitfully. And here's a key verse for this whole study in these two Psalms. You love evil more than good, lying rather than speaking righteousness. You love all devouring words, you deceitful tongue. God shall likewise destroy you forever. He shall take you away and pluck you out of your dwelling place and uproot you from the land of the living. The righteous also shall see and fear, and shall laugh at him, saying, here is the man who did not make God his strength, but trusted in the abundance of his riches, and strengthened himself in his wickedness. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the mercy of God. Forever and ever, I will praise you forever because you have done it. And in the presence of your saints, I will wait on your name, for it is good. Psalm 53, the fool, we talked about this extensively, has said in his heart, there is no God. They're all corrupt, and they've done abominable iniquity. There is none who does good. God looks down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand, who seek God. Every one of them has turned aside. They have together become corrupt. There is none who does good, no, not one. Have the workers of iniquity no knowledge, who eat up my people as they eat bread, and do not call upon God? There they are in great fear, where no fear was, for God has scattered the bones of him who encamps against you. You have put them to shame, but God has despised them. Oh, that the salvation of Israel would come out of Zion. When God brings back the captivity of his people, let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. And there's a lot of things that we could talk about there. But the focus is this idea that we need to recognize that God is who he says he is. And to understand that it's a choice, and we talked about that extensively. We choose to believe. We choose not to believe. And I could go on about all this evidence about creation, maybe another day. But another key indicator here is verse 1 of Psalm 53. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. The hardened heart is set against God. And again, we get hard, we get set in our ways, and we think, nobody's going to tell us. I don't want somebody, I don't want a God that I have to be accountable to. I don't want a God that is going to restrict how I live my life, how I do the things that I enjoy or that give me pleasure. And man, in some verses 2 through 4 in Psalm 52 and verses 3 through 4 in Psalm 53, it's a general description, but it's evil, unrestrained. That is the heart of man. We have to understand that. I am not a good person. You are not a good person. When we compare ourselves to a holy God, we should be good people. But our nature is a fallen nature. Man without God, left to his own devices, is what these verses describe. Look at human history. If you can find an account of human history that tells it like it is and isn't politically correct. But anyhow, look at human history. It's replete over and over again. Man, left to his own devices. Man, when he assumes great power. And here's for you who are thinking socialism and communism is a good thing. They are the worst perpetrators of human destruction, of genocide, of murdering millions of their own people. Man, unrestrained. There isn't one person that could do that. People blame Hitler. One man can't do it. It's the inherent evil, unrestrained. We do have occasional flashes of goodness. And when God touches a person, our values change. We see things differently. We see from what I call an eternal perspective. There was a young man, I forget how many years ago, who God touched, who spoke to, a man named James Elliott. Many of you have probably heard of him. Many of you haven't. But he became a missionary. Young man, married, just starting out in life. God called him to be a missionary in South America to a tribe of Indians, I think they were called the Aucas. And people ask him, why are you doing that? You're just starting out, you've got a family. It's dangerous. They kill people that come in there. It's dangerous. And it's a famous statement in a book that was written. I don't remember if he wrote it or if it was written about him. But anyhow, it was when they asked him, why are you doing this? And he made the statement, and it just, over the years when I read that book, it just has stuck with me. And what he said was, he is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. And I've thought about that over the years at different times, and it's encouraged me and inspired me that, I can hang on to this life and the things of this life But there's eternity in each person's heart, whether we understand it or not. And I've come to a place where I say, as much as I enjoy life, as much as I enjoy the things in life, the things that bring pleasure and enjoyment, I'm seeing this bigger picture. And the author here, David, is making it clear, people, he's speaking to his own people, he's speaking to us. Don't be a fool. The evidence is overwhelming. We'll continue next week. I'm running a bit long here this week, but next week we will continue here in Psalm 52 and 53 and read it, meditate on it. Take care and God bless.